helps a little bit.
Passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to public hearings. Public hearing A, to consider a Class 11 restaurant lounge spirituous vinous and malt liquor license special amusement permit for music, dancing, and entertainment, and victualer's license for Tijuana's Margaritas Restaurant and Watering Hole, 15 Mill Street. Mr. Mylan.
Hi, good evening, folks. I'm Dave Mylan, the Director of Community Development. All of the inspections have been done and the fees have been paid, and staff recommends approval of the license.
Thank you very much. Does anyone wish to speak for or against the issuing of this license? Hearing none, I'll close public hearing A. Move on to public hearing B, to consider a Class 1 qualified catering other/wedding and event venue spirituous vinous and malt liquor license for the Stone Manor, 89 Main Street.
Again, the staff has done the required inspections and are recommending approval.
Does anyone wish to speak for or against the issuing of this license? Or free advertising for?
That's right.
I just give you an update because some of you guys were here the whole journey. So we, the event center, thank you, and now has both the ceremony facility and also the reception facility for weddings and all other kind of events. But since most events people like their liquor, we have been losing business in the season. We have lost a few due to we rent the bar with the bartender. They come in from other places, and when things are busy, they don't get to us. So we decided just to apply for it.
So how many people can you have in the?
So according to the state fire marshal, 520 in the
Wow.
first floor. I don't think so. They're just saying what is safe. So 300 each floor. And typically we don't book 2 floors together, just do the management things. But,
Okay.
yeah.
So is the receptions on the second?
So upstairs is still the pews, and it's like a chapel.
Mhm.
So we have the ceremony upstairs when it's a wedding. The reception is the ballroom downstairs. I don't know if you've been there. It's a place that when I go in both floors, I don't want to come out basically. And downstairs, we took all those ugly drop ceilings, did the fire resistant ceilings. There are all new lightings. They're all kind of custom lightings that go with the history of the church. 12-feet ceiling. Most people come in, they want to sing there because it has such nice acoustics, even in the ballroom downstairs. And then we have the balcony or the loft that we use for the bridal party getting ready. And we have this historic prep room in the south steeple that we use for bridal dressing room. Our last wedding, actually, The groom used it. So, and he played violin there. It's actually online now. He was very talented. So, he got to use the prep room for the bride. But yeah, it's like a full wedding destination. In addition, in the ballroom, we can do other stuff, celebration of life, graduation, birthdays, everything. Upstairs too, bigger things, chamber music, performances. So it's good for a lot of uses, but I think people really find it convenient that we have both ceremony and reception for weddings, and it's quite unique. So yeah, we're proud of it.
Great, thank you so much.
Sure.
All right. Anything else? Hearing none, I'll close public hearing B. And move on to acknowledgement by council members. We'll start down with Sam today.
I'd like to congratulate UMaine's incredible football season, historic. Hopefully that will continue for hopefully at least 2 more games would be lovely, but we'll see. But congratulations to them. It's pretty exciting. I'd also like to acknowledge, of all things, a one-eyed pirate cat who we lost in this community earlier this year, Leela, is sing the choir in Visibule, as Monty Python says. And I'm sure she's chasing some mice around up there. We miss her very much. And it's the holiday season. Lots of great events happening around town. I hope we all partake in that. And I also hope that we shop local. We have a lot of great stores here with lots of hidden treasures and fun things. So do indeed shop local.
Thank you. Tom?
Thanks. Next week, the town sponsors an employee recognition event, which I've enjoyed attending many years, and unfortunately will be out of town this year. But I would like to recognize the employees who will receive honors at that event for their years of service. Chris Prue, who is receiving an award for 35 years of service to the town, which is amazing. I remember Chris as a high school student. Scott Luciano, who's been with us for 20 years. Mark Roy and Kevin Sirway, who have been with us for 15 years. Ed Lasky, Dan Merrill, Adam Smart, and Rob Yerxa, who have been with us for 10 years. And Cameron Barrio, Chase Haas, and Peter Wentworth, who are celebrating their 5th year anniversary with the town. I think it speaks very well for a town to be able to keep employees on for that period of time, and congratulations to those individuals.
Thanks, Tom.
Well, they pretty well said everything, but I would like to add one more thing is having been here through the whole change of the Stone Manor, I have to say you guys have done a wonderful job, and you turned something from what could have been a real liability to this town to something wonderful. And thank you very much.
Megan?
Yes, I would also like to acknowledge the passing of Leela. I actually saw her the morning she passed, and she glared at me disdainfully at Ampersand, and I feel honored that I got to have that moment. She was wonderful. What a wonderful. I mean, that's one of the many things that I love about this town is we just are this quirky, strange community that has a one-eyed cat that just lives in everyone's stores and houses and has its own Facebook page. So I'd also like to thank town staff for the Light Up the Night celebration. It was, what's that?
I said you took mine.
Oh, God, we can share it. Cheryl and I both would like to commend town staff. Despite the conditions, a lot of merriment was had by all. And for the 3rd year in a row, my daughter got too scared to talk to Santa, but maybe next year.
That Santa can be
And
scary.
on top of that, Orono High School students who sang at Light Up the Night, and acknowledge Tracy Witten. And I really like her messages also that she puts on her board as you're driving by. They're very uplifting and very positive. But Light Up the Night is always fun, no matter, even if there wasn't a chocolate fountain this year. Still really nice.
I have one more.
Go ahead.
Well, I just want to also acknowledge Orono Middle School's recent production of Humbug High. They did a great job with that, and I think the high school gets a lot of accolades, and the middle school, their production as well, is worth giving them a great shout out. So, cheers to them.
Great. Thank you all. We'll move on to unfinished business. We don't have any. So now I'll ask for a motion to move the consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? No. All those in favor of the consent agenda? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to new business. Order 18192, order authorizing the town manager to sign a marketing and sponsorship agreement between Orono, Old Town Economic Development Group, and Black Bear Sports Properties, LLC. I'll take a motion, please.
Move approval.
Second.
Second.
Briefly, if I may, Cindy.
Sure.
I'm going to be sort of recusing myself from conversation or voting on this, as I have a vested interest in one of the businesses that could benefit from this contract.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, good evening. Again, I'm Dave Mylan, Director of Community Development. And just a quick, maybe for some that aren't familiar with this was a multi-year project that we're kind of in the middle year of. We had started this. From an economic development standpoint, we were looking to find a way that smaller businesses in Orono could benefit from advertising through UMaine Athletics. And through this process, we worked with, we meaning the city of Old Town, Ron Harriman from over there, myself, approached Learfield, who contracts to do all of the marketing for the UMaine Athletics. And we were able to put together a kind of a one of a kind type of project where the communities would help underwrite a larger marketing program that would include individual businesses. And when I say more of the smaller businesses who don't have $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to do a marketing program with the hockey program or the football program and such. So this is a really very unique, very novel program where we have the two communities have partnered with Learfield, and this is part of my budget. I budget for this every year. And but because of the amount, the $5,000 as part of the agreement, it requires coming before council for approval. I'll answer as many or as few questions as you like.
Dave, can you just take a couple of minutes for folks who might not have the contract or have remembered from last year to talk just a little bit about what the individual businesses get? So essentially, you are aggregating all of the businesses so they get a piece of the marketing, correct?
Correct.
Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. The traditional marketing program with a university sports program tends to be much of the bigger companies or financially bigger companies, and the benefits range from signage, from announcements at games, abilities to be at particular games, whether it's beforehand, during the games, to be able to get your message out. It's just a great opportunity to be in front of thousands, if not tens of thousands of potential customers. In this program, what we've done is each of the businesses puts in $1,000, and as Sophie said, they get a piece of, instead of getting 20 mentions during a sporting program, each one may get 2. So they're really, it's more of a collection of benefit. The more businesses that participate, the more the benefit, the more they increase the benefit for each particular business. And so we've been very fortunate to have businesses here that are taking advantage of this. And as I say, they part of the involvement is inclusion into Black Bear Sports Television. So they have a television program that talks specifically about our program, the Old Town and Orono community group. And so that allows each of these businesses to be able to get their message out to the public in a way that, frankly, they probably couldn't have, most of them, if not all of them, couldn't afford to do individually. Is that fair enough?
Yeah. Dave, do we have any feedback yet from?
This year's been very good. Last year was the first year that we did the program. I wasn't entirely happy with some of the way that things were going on. A lot of lack of communication. There's been a large change in leadership at Learfield. The new management coming in has been very, very reactive to our concerns, and we've seen the difference this year is really truly has been like night and day. So the businesses that I've talked with have been happy with the involvement that we're having, and we want to be able to build this even more. The idea is to kind of build upon this opportunity and be able to show businesses how they can take advantage and how it can really benefit their business by being associated with and partnering with UMaine Athletics. Obviously, this year with the football program, we've gotten an extra great benefit because folks certainly like being part of a winning team. So
I've noticed it on a lot of the broadcasts, and I was surprised, and I remembered how this came to be, and I was like, well done.
Thank you.
Dave, is this an annual? Do you sign up annually?
It is. It's
$1,000 a year.
It is. This is our second year that we're out of a three. We told them that we would look at doing it for 3 years and then reevaluate it and see if it was something that we thought was working or not. So we do it. It starts in July of each year. Goes through the football season into basketball, hockey, and we're working with them right now as we want to be able to develop some more of a partnership with the businesses, with the teams that are less recognized or don't seem to get the attention. We think that there's a great opportunity here to partner with programs like the baseball and softball programs, field hockey. There's a lot of good sporting programs at UMaine that, frankly, nobody's taking advantage of, and I want to do that.
And are the businesses solicited, or how do they know about this program?
Well, we've tried to get the word out to as many, the businesses, not only myself, but as well as the staff from Learfield has gone around door to door, talking to the businesses, letting them know what it is. I started it just so they would know that this was real. This isn't some scam or so. So I wanted people to know. So I went around last year and started talking with a lot of the businesses. This year has been more of Learfield's had been able to reach out. But frankly, any business in Orono that wants to participate is welcome to participate.
There's contact information somewhere.
I'm sorry?
Contact information.
Call me. 1-800-DAVE-MILAN.
Thanks. It's awesome. It's very collaborative.
Dave, how many Orono businesses are involved at this
I
point?
think right there this year we have six.
All right. Susan, you want?
I have a comment simply pertaining to kind of like a more broader sense of athletics and business, which might be of interest and might have some pertinence. Last week, after trying to jog my memory of the specifics, I read a lot. Last week, there was a report in terms of I think it was pro athletes. And don't necessarily quote me on it because I'm trying to remember this report that I read. I think it was pro athletes. I think it might have been in the state of California, are currently facing, I think it's a tax situation in terms of a lot of the things that they're typically permitted to deduct, such as some of their equipment costs and such for tax deductions, they're no longer capable of doing. And I think it was in the state of California. I don't know if it's kind of like sweeping across the nation, though that change in their kind of tax business interaction engagement, that change has resulted in some athletes, having losses, it's kind of like an income loss of, I think it was 30% or so. It was very considerable. It was someone who was making millions. One athlete who they used as example was like $1 million athlete. He was experiencing an $80,000 loss. I recall some of the figures on it. So just for those looking to be professional athletes, that's the business sense is something to stay alert of.
Thank you, Susan. Anyone else have any questions, comments? All right. If not, I will take a vote on Order 18192. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Passes 5 yeas and 1 recusal or abstention.
Thank you.
And we will now move on to council committee and representative reports. We'll start down here with Megan.
All right. Well, the Comp Plan Implementation Committee did not meet this month, so I have nothing to report there. We will pick up our regular business in the new year. There was a very interesting Orono Historical Society meeting. The first item of business was a visit from a representative from the Orono Firefighters Association, who was asking the Historical Society to sign over the 1933 motorized pumper truck that they have ownership of, because OFA is going to actually put some work into refurbishing it so that it can be kind of available for public display. It's very, very interesting. What's it? Not for use. Not for use. No. So it was very interesting. It was actually the first motorized truck that the Orono firefighters had. They had a horse-drawn wagon up through the beginning of the 1900s, and then for a while, they had a steam engine. They didn't like it, apparently, according to the logbooks that are actually still in the house. They didn't like it, and it was stolen. They pushed it into the river. That's what OFA told us at the meeting. They pushed it into the river because they didn't like it, and they used the insurance money to purchase
Not a good practice.
the motorized pumper truck. I mean, it was a long time ago. It was a long time ago, and so they used that for a long time. And then when it went out of service, Public Works used it to water flowers around town for a long time, this motorized pumper truck, which is interesting. So anyway, the Historical Society did agree to sign over the truck to them. And so that work is going to begin. I think they're going to start rustling up old parts and things around the state and doing a lot of the work themselves. And then the second half of the meeting, we actually watched a DVD of a 2006 lecture by James Eric Francis, the tribal historian of the Penobscot Nation. And it was largely about sort of the early encounters between Europeans and Native tribes in this region, but specifically about the history of Chief Orono. And it was very, very fascinating stuff. And actually, the lecture was right here in this room. And it was interesting, too, because some of the members of the society were there in the audience. So the camera would pan out, and it's like, oh, there you are. Hi. So anyway, that's a very interesting DVD, and I'm sure that if anyone is interested in it, they could contact the Historical Society and possibly arrange a way to view it. But it's fascinating stuff.
Okay, thank you. Tom.
Reports. I have a couple of reports. On December 4th, we had our Finance and Operations Committee meeting. First item on our agenda was a presentation from representatives from the Penobscot County Regional Dispatch Group, who are undertaking an ambitious plan to update the equipment around the county that they use for the dispatch service. Interestingly enough, they own some of the equipment, and the individual towns still own some of the equipment, and all of it is very outdated, and it'd be important to have it replaced, all of it simultaneously. So they are pursuing the possibility, if the towns will agree, to take over ownership of the town-owned equipment so they can legitimately replace that equipment. We talked about the pluses and minuses of that, and there seem to be very few minuses, since otherwise we're going to have to come up with the money to replace the equipment. This is in the early stages of discussion, so you'll hear more about it. No decisions have been made. They just wanted to test the waters to see if it was something worth pursuing a little further with the county commissioners. We also heard about some grant programs that we received, the Bryn Justice Assistance Grant Program, and recommendations on how to use that federal money in law enforcement, and we approved the purchases that were recommended in our consent agenda. And the last item was a discussion on utilizing state asset forfeiture funds for patrol bicycles and accessory purchases. Very interesting discussion. We are eligible for some forfeiture funds through the court system, and our police chief is recommending purchasing a bicycle to see if that will be an asset to community engagement for our police department, and it sounded like a very interesting program, so we're going to go ahead with that. So that was our Finance and Operations Committee meeting. And then on November 29th, I spent the day in Augusta at the Legislative Policy Committee, which I represent you folks on. We approved several bills that our staff at the Maine Municipal Association had developed that will be introduced in the legislature. I actually have them if anybody is interested in looking at them. One of the bills was to make, it had to do with the putting cables on telephone poles for internet expansion and the high-speed internet. And right now we have to pay the utility company for the privilege of putting wires on their poles, when in fact they were supposed to reserve space on those poles for municipal use. So we end up paying them to take wires off the areas that were reserved for municipal use, so that we can put wires up, which doesn't make much sense. So this bill would eliminate that practice and exempt municipalities from paying utility companies for that. Utility companies won't be very receptive to this, I suspect. We talked about a bill to reinstate municipal revenue sharing at the 5% level, which will be introduced. We talked about and approved that. We talked about several other interesting bills. One of the ones that got quite a bit of conversation was a proposal to return 25% of any excise tax money collected by the state as a result of the adult use marijuana laws to the municipalities, return 25%. And actually there was some objection to that from municipalities. They didn't want it to be a financial decision on the part of their town whether to allow retail marijuana establishments or cultivation facilities in the community. In the end, on a close vote, that bill was approved and it will be introduced to the legislature. We're not sure what will happen to that. So that was a busy day. We meet again in January. I'll have more items to report to you. This was just approving bills that will be introduced, and hopefully in January, we'll see more bills that are introduced by the legislators themselves.
Thank you, Tom. And Sam?
The Community Development Committee did not meet yet this month. We will be meeting next Monday. Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. That's all interesting information. Would not recommend to the fire department that they push any
No.
vehicles or equipment into the water. All right, now we'll move on to future agenda items or items of concern. Sam, do you have any?
I don't think so.
Okay. Tom?
No.
Tom? Megan? Cheryl?
I just want to say that our Kids Night at Council has been postponed until spring. So we can find a better date and we can have a more comprehensive kind of
Good.
event instead of rushing us through December concerts and stuff.
Yes. One item that has come up, it came up as part of the town manager's report in Finance and Operations Committee that will be coming up for discussion in likely Community Development Committee is concern has been raised around whether or not the town of Orono should enact an ordinance to limit the residency of people who are on the sex offender registry within certain areas of the community. That's a multifaceted discussion right now. Finance and Operations Committee members asked staff to do some research and bring it back to the appropriate committee, which we plan to do after the start of the new year.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to public petitions. Don't think we have any. Public comments? None. All right, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Everyone have a happy holiday. Council has a workshop afterwards.
I already wished happy holidays last month.
Stuart, are you staying for the workshop?
Why am I supposed to work?
No, we're